Are you feeling stuck and trying to figure out how to make changes in your life? Well, this is just exactly what we're going to be discussing in the video today. So check it out. I'm Margaret Blaine, life coach. My mission is to apply what mankind has learned about how the mind works and our relationship to the universe so you can discover your purpose, reconnect with your dreams, and build a life you'd love living. So if you'd like to hear more on this topic, subscribe to my videos. Hit that subscribe button and that little bell. Now, are you in a situation where you feel stuck and don't know how to find a path forward to make changes in your life? In this video, we're going to be looking at the first 2 steps you must take before you can move forward. And I'll bet you, if you've been watching this video, you've been obsessing about what you don't want. That's what happens. If we're feeling lots of discontents, we tend to look at those. But the first step we need to take is to start looking at what we do want. You already think you know what you want? I'll bet that's not what you're creating with the universe. Joseph Murphy, in The Power of the Subconscious Mind, talks about how the subconscious mind connects with the conscious mind at upper levels. The conscious mind makes a decision about what's going to go into the subconscious and about what we believe, not necessarily want. And then at the lower levels, it connects with the superconscious, which creates what we believe in our lives. So we need to know what it is we want, because if we're just obsessing about what we don't want, that's what we're creating. So the first step to moving forward, to getting unstuck, is to write down what you would love to have happen in your life. Now, this means you're not going to include things other people think you should do. You're not going to include the things you think you ought to do, like cleaning the garage. That is not dreams. Dreams are the dreams of your heart, and they're going to be big, and you're not going to know how they're going to happen. And you say, well, I don't see how they're going to happen. And you probably think, better to stay with what you know rather than try something you don't know, right? Right. You're never going to know how it's going to happen. That's not the way the universe works. You're only going to know one step in advance on the path. So I want you to take a couple of your marvelous dreams, the kinds of dreams you had when you were a kid, and think of them as having happened 3 years from now. And I picked 3 years because that's a long enough time to suspend disbelief. If it were just a year or 6 months, we'd probably say, no, that's not possible. So write those down. And just to let you know, all kinds of traditions absolutely support this way of looking at things. Buddhism does, so does New Thought Christianity. And then we've got people like Napoleon Hill, who was supported by Andrew Carnegie, not financially, but emotionally, to do a study on 500 of the most successful people in the United States to find out what they were all doing that created that success. And from that, he learned about the laws of success. Now, in order to be able to write your vision statement, I have a gift for you, and it's free. And it's guidelines on how to write your vision statement. And if you're interested in getting that, go to this link over here. Now we come to step 2, now that you've written your vision. And step 2 is to make a decision that you are going to do this. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to do it. Now this is important because until you actually make a decision, you haven't let the universe know that you're serious. A hope does not produce this. Only a decision does. And at that point, the universe can bring you the resources and the ideas that you're going to need to bring your goal into fruition. And you don't know where these are going to come from. I remember when I wanted to go to teacher training in India years and years and years ago on the Transcendental Meditation program. It was a 3-month deal, and I had children. And I was thinking, oh, I'm just not so sure how I would do this. But I made a decision I was going to go no matter what. And all at once, to my great surprise, a young woman in our group volunteered to babysit for 3 months while I was gone. I had no idea that was even possible. So we don't always know what's needed and what connections are going to be made, but they'll only be made after you make a decision that you're going to do it, no matter what. Now, there's a major challenge that comes up when you make a decision like this, and that is we've been trained to look at our circumstances. We've not been trained to look at the opportunities, which are invisible. Your goal is still invisible, right? We're always trained to look to our circumstances about why we can and cannot do things. But you're being asked to shift from doing that, to look at your spiritual side, to look at the opportunities and the possibilities that are still invisible. And you say, oh, but all kinds of doubts come up when I even think about doing that. Well, of course they do. Of course they do. And when they do, just take your attention back and refocus on the goal, the invisible goal that you're trying to achieve. And then ask yourself, what step can I take today toward my goal? And then take it. Because once you start this connection with the universe, it's going to supply you with ideas. Now I want to tell you a story about Judy. Judy was a young mother who worked for a fast food restaurant. She didn't have a lot of education. She had 2 children, and the 3 of them were living in a 1-bedroom apartment that cost $500 a month. And that stretched Judy as far as she could go. And it was very uninspiring. It was crowded. There was no window over the kitchen sink. There was no yard. It was just not a real uplifting environment, shall we say. But Judy just simply did not see a way forward. But then she went to a talk on this topic and decided to sign up with a coach. And the first thing the coach said to her was, well, I want you to look for the kind of house that you want. Judy laughed to herself. That's crazy. I could never afford a house. The coach said, go look. So Judy went and looked for a couple of weeks. And by golly, she found the house of her dreams. Now, granted, it was rough at this point. It had been a rental for a number of years. But it had a window over the kitchen sink. It had a yard where her children could have a little dog. And it had the potential for, having a white picket fence with flowers. And it had a curved front door. And it was just exactly what she would love. And now she's mad because she says, I found exactly what I want, and I know I can't have it. And the coach said, why not? She says, well, because it's going to cost $900 a month. Well, the coach knew something more about how the laws of success work. And so she says, now, Judy, if you didn't believe this was impossible, what would you do? So Judy went home and thought about that. And she came up with an idea. She was really quite handy. She and her father used to work in his shop, and he had taught her all kinds of things to be able to do, to be able to refinish floors and do whatever's needed. And she'd seen about 40 projects in that house that needed to be done that would improve the house and make it a really livable family home. So she decided to write the owner and tell him exactly what her situation was, that she could only afford $500 a month, that she had 2 children, but that she was handy and that she'd seen 40 projects that could be done to improve the house. And if he would be willing to let her live there for $500 a month for the next year, she would do those projects. If he would pay for the raw materials. So she sends all the letter. And a week passed. 2 weeks passed. And she was in the third week, and just when she was thinking he was never going to respond, she got a response. And the owner, to his confusion, said to her, I don't know why I'm doing this. I've got 2 other people who are willing to pay full price, but there was something about your letter that really appealed to me. So if you're willing to agree to have inspections every quarter to make sure that we're following through with the projects, I would be willing to jump for the raw materials and let you rent the house for a year for $500 a month. Judy was thrilled. She moved into the house of her dreams 30 days later. A year later, she had a business. She'd completed all the projects. She was developing a seamstress business out of the extra bedroom in the house that she had. And in 3 years, she stayed with the coach. Judy owned that house. Now, if you'd like to see what could happen in your life, like what happened in Judy's life, and would love to take this deeper, to take the next step to your dream, sign up for a strategy session with me. During that time, just press that button. It'll take you to Calendly where you can sign up for a time. And during that session, we're going to look at where you are now, where you would love to be, and what the next best step would be to getting you there. Now, I have a question for you, and I'm really curious about what your response is going to be. What do you think about the idea of working this way? And I'll see you the first week of next month.